one of the really good questions I got was from another Danish guy, and he actually asked me about some of the metabolites that were in the RU58841. What's up guys, welcome back to Unlimiting Me. So last week we had a video with the compound RU58841 where I described how it works and some side effects and some things you should know about it before beginning on it. Now, after I posted this video, I actually got a few more questions on that video regarding this compound, and I thought some of them were really interesting and I wanted to share whatever I could of information with you guys. And I thought, like, why not even make a video on these topics again. And for those of you guys who are new to this channel, please consider to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you haven't watched the other videos about RU58841, I would strongly recommend that you go and watch them, because some of the questions you'll hear in here will be from that video, and it's a response to some of the questions I had in there, and there's a lot of information that you should know before you watch these videos. Okay guys, so one of the really good questions I had in there was actually from another Danish guy who found my channel, and he asked me about the half-life of RU58841. Now, when you take RU58841, it's going to break down into two principal metabolites. Now, for those of you who don't know what a metabolite is is like if, say, you have an androgen hormone in your body, let's say testosterone, and then you add something like the alpha-5 reductase enzyme. Then it becomes a metabolite of testosterone called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. Whoa. Whenever that happens, the compound will keep some of its properties, but it will change how it works in your body. Now, the same thing happens to RU58841. It breaks down into these two basic metabolites. The one is called RU5916. This is actually about 96% of the RU58841 that becomes this compound after, this metabolite. And one thing you should know, guys, this compound is so weak, it's not even worth even considering in your body. The other metabolite that it will reduce into is called cyanonilutamide, I think it's called. So this anti-androgen compound is actually a very potent anti-androgen because it has a really high receptor affinity. Now, a receptor affinity is that, let's say you're trying to block your androgen receptors so the DHT can't bind to them. The higher the affinity, the more it will fight for that place on the receptor. So let's say testosterone has the higher affinity compared to another compound. Testosterone will win and sit on the receptor. That's why DHT is a big problem, because DHT actually has a pretty high receptor affinity. This is actually why DHT becomes such a problem for us guys, because DHT has a really high androgen receptor affinity, meaning that it will bind most of the time to the receptor, knocking off whatever else is binding to it, and it will do its job before anything else. So you will, most of the time, if you don't use anything, lose your hair, because the DHT will take its place, do whatever it wants to, then move on, and you'll begin to lose your hair. Now, as I said before, cyanonilutamide has a really strong affinity for the androgen receptor. This means that it will actually come up and knock off the DHT first. Not only that, but it also has a half-life of over 20 hours. Now guys, this is where some of the confusion happens. So when you take RU58841, the half-life is about 2 hours, maybe 1 hour or so. Now it is only 1% of the RU58841 that becomes cyanonilutamide. But that is enough, guys. That is more than enough than you need. But in this way, you will now know why you're taking RU58841 It is because whatever you're taking, that 1% will become cyanide via metabolization in your body. And that is the compound actually you want to stick in your scalp, because this is what's going to keep the DHT from binding to your hair follicles and destroying your full head of hair or whatever you have left. This is also what's going to stick to your hair for the next almost 24 hours. That is also why I'm telling you guys to apply it once a day, because the half-life of this cyanide is above 20 hours. The next question that is also linked to this first question is, someone asked me, hey, I was checking up on the RU58841 half-life, and it says on the Wikipedia that the half-life is 1 hour. And then he asked me, is there even any point to applying it if I'm only covered for 1 hour? Well, if you saw the first response, I don't know if you figured it out yourself, but yes, in the first hour, you're going to absorb the RU58841, as I explained before. Then you will make cyanide that will have its half-life of about 20 hours on top of that. And this is the compound that is going to protect your hair. So you're not being protected a lot by the RU58841. It's actually the metabolite of that compound that is going to protect your hair. So the actual half-life of the compound you're using is 20 hours. It is not 1 hour. It is from the first product you're applying to your hair, but it will transform into something else that is going to protect you for the next 20 hours before it's half only in dosage. Okay, guys? So that should more or less cover why I'm telling you guys to apply it once a day. And the last question for today is, because someone actually asked me if I am storing my RU58841 in the fridge. And I got to admit to you guys, I'm not. Seriously, I'm not. I have it in my closet. What a good idea could be is if you have plenty of the dry powder. Yes, you could store it in a fridge, but depending on your chemical knowledge and experience, some of you, like myself, might actually look at it and say, hey, this is not actually very necessary. Yes, it will prolong the lifetime or the lifespan of this product, whatever you call it. But considering how much it is going to keep it lasting, it is not very good compared to the downside to when you cool it down. So a problem that nobody thinks about in this concept is there's something called a suspension. A suspension is if you take, let's say, salt and put into water. Let's say you take 100 milliliters of water and then you heat it to 20 degrees Celsius and then you just let it sit there. Then you add salt to the water, let it dissolve. At some point, the salt is going to fall to the bottom and not dissolve in the water. Now you reach your saturation dosage. Now the next thing you can do from here is that you can do two things with the water. First, you can heat up the water. Then you will realize that the powder at the bottom, or the salt at the bottom, will begin to dissolve. This is because when you're increasing the temperature, you are increasing the suspension threshold for this water. The other way around, if you cool down the water, you'll actually realize that there's going to become more of the salt on the bottom, because the colder the liquid, the less it can absorb. Now, why am I telling you this, guys? It's because when you take RU58841, put it in the PG solution, or if you just put it in minoxidil and just stir it up like this, the same thing will apply to you guys. And the reason why there's ethanol in the solutions often, it's because RU58841 is actually pretty hard to dissolve into soluble substances. So RU58841 actually has a pretty hard time at dissolving into a liquid. That is why we add ethanol if we're going to make our own solution. So guys, if you take something that is not very likely to dissolve into water and then you put it into another solution where you added alcohol to make it dissolve even better. Then when you're cooling it down in the fridge or the freezer or something else, you're actually lowering the suspension threshold, and you will have RU58841 at the bottom of the flask until you reheat the flask. This means that if you want to use this method of storing it, you have to reheat the flask every day before you use it. So you have to plan ahead a lot of time. And for me, seriously guys, for me this is just not a very plausible way for me to do it, because I will skip it, I will miss it, I will use too cold of a mixture and not get enough of the powder. And what's the point of keeping the shelf life of the powder if it's just going to stick to the bottom of the flask and I'm not going to get any on my hair? Okay, so we are back again to the thing about money. Yes, if you're broke as hell, you should consider how you can get the most out of your money, but it's such a little difference, guys, so I wouldn't really mind it a lot if it were me. Okay, thank you for today, guys. That's all I have for you. Now, if you like this kind of video where I go through some of the comments and questions, please just post more questions for me. I'll get by and answer them as good as I can and as fast as I can. And if it has been any help to you guys, please just hit the like and the subscribe button. Helps me with the algorithm, such and such, and it keeps me just going, and I know you guys want to see this kind of videos, okay? I enjoy making them, it's fun for me, and in this way I learn more myself, and I want to share this with you guys. So just hit the buttons and we'll see you next time.